exactly 1 year since I started software engineering at Concordia. I thought I'd be building robots by now. Instead, I built a boring emulator, a useless website, and questioned so many times whether software engineering is even worth it at this point. Alright, you guys, so I just came back home from work. Now it's not nighttime anymore, so I can speak a little bit more normal. You know that feeling when you come into class and all of a sudden they start talking about topics you have never heard about, but everybody seems to know about them. Or for my case, when I was in a hackathon, I was still trying to get my environment set up and everybody just figured everything out by like the first hour or two. And that's when you get like that sinking feeling in your gut where like where you feel like you're not where you deserve to be. And you know, for me, I started university 1 year later than people my age because I was behind. And that already set me back a little bit because I was with people that are younger than me and I just felt like I was late. And the first real hackathon I went to, I left after lunch. And the reason for this is because the gap between what I thought I should have known and what I actually knew was, well, I felt insurmountable. What I've learned after this first year and what I can share with you guys is that imposter syndrome is actually the exact sign you're looking for to show that you're actually winning. And so we need to reframe what this feeling actually is. Most people think imposter syndrome is a skill gap. You feel like a fraud because you like the skills everyone else has, but that's not it. And by the way, there's a very well-known psychological effect that describes this exact feeling. It's called the Dunning-Kruger effect. The idea is, it explains that when you're a true beginner, you don't know what you don't know, right? So you have like the surface level stuff and you don't see the bigger picture. My God, my camera keeps falling. So you don't see the bigger picture. But then as you begin to learn more, and especially in the software field, you see that it's never ending. You know, there's so many fields that branch out all the time. You can't know everything. And so this is where the confidence plummets, and it's called the valley of despair. That's imposter syndrome. It's actually the moment your brain finally has enough context to understand the true scope of software engineering. That doesn't mean you're dumb. It just means you're now more aware of it. Going back to my first hackathon, I was in an event called Code ML, for those who know. I walked in and immediately it felt like everyone else was speaking a different language. To be fair, there was a prequel event, I could say, which was used to teach people about what was going to be used on this hackathon. I didn't attend it because I didn't know it existed. But anyway, still, I went to Code ML. I just opened my laptop and just felt like this wave of I shouldn't be here. At that time, I let this perception gap dictate my actions that time, and this is where I basically decided to just not do it. I actually just walked out of the hackathon altogether and thought to myself that, yeah, I'm not doing this. But what I failed to realize back then is that this exact thing of feeling lost was the sign that I was growing and learning. And I let that stop me. And I left. I do remember, I think I waited for lunch because they were giving out free food, and the moment I took it, I ate it. By the way, it was very, very good, so thank you for that. But they didn't check for attendance or anything, so I grabbed it and went about my way. But yeah, the next hackathon I went in with the mindset of forcing myself to stay, even if I felt like I didn't belong, and no matter how stupid I felt. I googled every single error, and actually they had mentors on site, so that way I could always ask people for help. And by the end of the day, we actually had a working prototype. It was ugly, it was half broken. I didn't have the time to really polish it, actually, but it worked, and that's the most important part. And that moment completely changed how I saw failure. So if you're feeling like everyone's ahead of you, I want you to realize something. The people who don't feel like imposters are the ones who stop learning. When you push yourself out of your comfort zone, you're supposed to feel lost. So next time that feeling hits, don't see it as proof you don't belong, see it as proof you're exactly where you should be. Alright, my to-do list is done. So right now we'll be heading with this guy, actually these two guys. I'm gonna do like a soccer challenge and hopefully win some free food, so we'll see how that goes. Okay, I'm back. Very tiring. It's starting to get really cold. I'm not looking forward to this winter. So let's continue with what I was saying. Let's talk about comparison, because that's the root of imposter syndrome. You open LinkedIn and see someone who got an internship at Amazon. Someone else built an app with 7,000 active users. And you're sitting here thinking, why can't that be me? What you don't see though is how many times they failed, or how lost they felt building it themselves. Every developer you look up to has questioned if they belong. And I know social media makes it worse, and you see day in the life of Amazon and it looks perfect, but nobody shows the parts where they struggle. So please, just stop comparing your learning phase to someone else's TikTok or Reel. But anyways, now that I'm back, I did want to learn a little bit more of React because I was gonna go live on my TikTok and start working, or not start working, but continue working on my app, which is coming up in spring, by the way, so stay tuned for that. Here's a sneak peek of what it looks like. I'm very proud of it. Hopefully it's gonna reach the numbers I'm expecting it to reach. But even then, I'm just doing it for fun and for my resume, because in this market you have to do that. Once again, I have no idea what's happening a lot of the times. You know, when I started this app, I had never touched React Native before, so I just go with the flow. As I need something, I Google it and see how it's done. A lot of the times, you know, you question yourself, like, is this the right way of doing something? Is this the right way? But at the end of the day, like, there is no right way, right? As long as your app is secure, working, that's your way of doing it, and it worked, go for it. Obviously there are some exceptions, but I'm just talking like in the broad sense here. I think the hardest part for every project I've done so far, so I've done quite a lot actually by now, so I think I'm in a good position to speak, is the beginning. Because every project you're trying to tackle something new. This is where you feel the most lost and you don't know where to begin, what to do. But I think what really changed was 6 months ago when I had like this mental shift, and I decided to, instead of quitting, take it as a sign for me that I was actually doing something good for my future. I was learning a new field, a new path within the software engineering career. I started to track my growth differently, not by how much I knew, but rather how often I felt uncomfortable. If I went full week without feeling dumb, I knew I wasn't pushing myself enough. And over time, that became a superpower, because imposter syndrome didn't disappear, it just turned into fuel. Every time I felt I didn't belong, I used it as a proof that I was doing something worth learning. And remember this, nobody ever feels ready. The best engineers I've met, or just saw on the internet, still Google everything and they still question their ability and still feel behind. So a thing that's very different with software engineering as compared to other engineering fields is that everything is so fast-paced. The thing of today will change by next week. That is just the reality we're in today. So that's why you should not let that get to your head. So yeah, this is my first video. All of this to say, you don't belong, but that's good. Because if you did, you wouldn't be learning anymore. So hopefully you learned something out of this. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.